This show is for entertainment purposes only. Do not mistake this show for medical advice. If you or anyone you know is in need of a dentist, please contact 480-391-0099 to set up an appointment.
Welcome to our podcast. Sit back and relax. Dental Works Podcast. We're gonna share some facts. We gonna raise your dental IQ at the Dental Works Podcast. We will guide you. Put out some bad jokes before we are through. Free information here just for you. Sit back and have a good time.
Today is May 8th, 2023, and this is episode number 119 of the Dental Works Podcast, the show about learning the ins and outs of dentistry from a patient's perspective. I'm Ted Work, and that over there is Dr. Terry Work.
Peace out. Peace up. Starting a new tagline.
You always do that, and I'm always afraid you're going to leave right at the beginning of the episode. Dental Works is a family dental practice based in Scottsdale, Arizona that has been providing cosmetic and surgical dentistry for over 27 and a half years. Dr. Terry, thank you for joining me. Today we have a special guest.
Yes, we do.
Do you want to introduce our very special guest?
I would love to.
All right, well,
This
just try not to yell if you could.
Okay. You're always saying speak right into it, and then you chastise me for
Well,
not
don't
doing
yell.
it.
I'm saying don't yell.
Today, our guest is Debbie Romano, and I know what everybody's thinking. Are you related to Ray Romano?
Asked all the time. No, I'm not.
Okay, that's the end of our show now. Debbie Romano owns Fountain Hills Healthy Heartbeats, and we actually met her. She's a member of a BNI group. You're with Kristen, is part of your group,
Yes.
correct? Yes.
The
And
Titans.
so, yes, and
Titans.
so we're going to start off by allowing you to tell a little bit about your story, how you got into this. We're going to talk about your business and just how you got to where you are. And then we're going to talk specifically about certain subjects that you want to kind of focus on. And then we will talk about dentistry and diet and all that kind of stuff. And we're going to just go wherever this takes us.
Yeah.
So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you for having me here today and giving me this platform to tell my story.
Sure.
I am 62 years old, and I am healthier now than when I was raising my children in my 30s and 40s. So my story started 11 years ago when my husband, Al, a retired police officer, had a quintuple bypass surgery. And we are from the Midwest. And typical standard eating back in the Midwest, my whole family, his whole family.
Okay.
And when he did have that incident 11 years ago, that changed my life also.
Okay. And you said he's a police officer?
Correct, retired.
Okay. And where was he a police officer? In the Midwest or?
Correct.
Okay.
Matson, Illinois.
Illinois. So that's the home of, is that cheese curd or is
That's
that
Wisconsin,
Close
I
to
think.
it.
Close.
That's Wisconsin, but real close.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay.
Absolutely.
And so he, how long was he a police officer?
For 26 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you moved out here?
We did.
Okay.
We're here in Arizona now
Did
for
he
6
have the
years.
bypass here or there?
Chicago area.
Okay.
In Illinois.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you moved here, and how long have you been here?
We're here now 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so did that kind of inspire you to look more into, how did you get into nutrition?
Well, that's where the story started. And when Al, after the surgeon saved his life, and when we went back to the cardiologist and we went in for more blood work, nothing was changing. And I thought I was. I was cooking more fish, chicken, vegetables, and so forth. So we went,
This was after the bypass.
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
But his blood work was...
just staying the same. And I just, this is my second marriage, the love of my life. I almost lost him. He was 56 years old. I was 51 at the time, young, wanted so many more years ahead of us. So when that wasn't changing, I went home and I cried, and then I got a little angry.
Okay.
And I thought, you know what? We need to change something. So I started researching reversal of cardiac disease.
Okay.
And that's when I found the natural way of changing your lifestyle to a more clean, plant-based diet.
Okay. And how, when you say researching, was it, did you get training, or did you research on the internet, or tell me a little bit about your journey there?
My first start was on that internet. That was Dr. Google.
Okay.
And we all go on there and research.
Sure.
But I found Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn on there.
Okay.
And he did all the studies for cardiology, and then it just intrigued me. But then again, we're talking about food. We're talking about diet. And it's very personal. I've been on every diet under the sun. And at that age of 51, I thought I knew it all, but I didn't. And I knew that I couldn't tell my husband what to eat because no one was going to tell me what to eat. So I thought I needed to do this myself. So as I researched more and found out that whole foods can be so healthy for you, that can do so many tremendous things to the body naturally, I thought I'd try that myself.
Okay.
And at that time, Dr. Work, my cholesterol was off track. I was almost type 2 diabetes. So I had a lot of those symptoms happening in my own life also.
Sure. And I look at, I have your pamphlet here. I'm going to cheat off of it. And I love the way you have this kind of a, different sessions for different programs. And I've always been kind of mindful about diet. Of course, I'm more mindful about how a diet affects your teeth, but also, healthy eating. I've never been a huge fast food person, processed food things. I think most people know what you should be doing. It's just, we're not inspired to do it. It's easier to do the things you want to do and then make excuses about why you didn't do it differently. But you've got your program, talking about different sessions here, and it goes through from 1 through 7. And the first session, you're talking about Clean Nutrition 101. Give me a little bit of background about how that, and I'm going to go through these steps a little bit. So,
well, I did get my certification in plant-based nutrition at Cornell.
Okay.
So that was totally brought me up to speed on nutrition. Not only did I take the education with nutrition, but also marketing and the Industrial Revolution. And how that affects our programming as Americans.
Sure.
And with that, I started changing my life, and I thought, I need to teach this. So then I went back and went to school and became certified as a nutrition and wellness consultant.
Okay. At Cornell?
No, the American Fitness Professionals Association.
Okay, great.
An accredited program. And what I was taught there is cognitive behavioral changes.
Okay.
We all know that fruits and vegetables are good for us.
Yes.
Why don't we? So that's where I wanted to, habits take about 6 to 8 weeks to happen.
Sure.
So that's why my program is 7 weeks, for that to really just consult and talk to a client about changing a lifestyle, about bringing in more healthy foods into their life.
Well, and it's interesting because there are so many documentaries out right now on Netflix. Nobody watches Netflix, but documentaries about how the, dietary recommendations since the 50s have come about, and how it's pushed by the food industry and by sugar producers and wheat and all this stuff. And it almost seems when you watch those documentaries like it's totally upside down. Like they're making recommendations that you eat this many, servings of bread and all that stuff.
Yeah, if you look at the food pyramid, it's pretty hilarious looking.
Yeah. So, give us a little bit of background about your feeling about that. How that fits in with what you learned from doing your research.
That is a great question. And that is why I've been on every diet under the sun, and they don't work. No diets work. We need to understand and educate ourselves what happens when we eat certain foods, our fruits and vegetables, our nuts, beans, legumes, that are not inflammatory compared to inflammatory foods that can cause chronic symptoms, such as your dairy, your meat, your processed foods, and absolutely the added sugars.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because a lot of people are like, I went on a diet and I lost 19 pounds, so I went ahead and, rewarded myself by going to Cheesecake Factory and gaining 18 of it back. I mean, that's when you talk about behavioral things, little stupid things. Like I notice when I watch certain sitcoms, it makes me want to eat potato chips. What's that about? Like little stupid things.
You think that's some sort of corporate synergy?
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing. Jennifer Aniston makes me want to eat cookies. No, but there is this, if you can realize those things and get out of the habits that kind of have you where you don't want to be, it's really a lot easier to kind of change those things. You get in these stupid habits of like starving yourself and then rewarding yourself with something that goes against what you're trying to accomplish. But you mentioned something about processed foods, the sugar. I was watching we have a Dr. TV thing here, and I was watching it after one of my patients. I was waiting for coffee to be made, and one of the things was, it says, "Did you know that a tablespoon of ketchup has a teaspoon of sugar?" And I'm like, How the hell did they get so much sugar in that? I mean, little things that don't particularly taste sweet have a ton of sugar in that.
Yeah.
So continue on with what you were talking about, processed foods.
Absolutely. And one of the 101, the food, reading labels is so very important. I teach basic clean eating. So what happens when we buy something in a box or we buy something that is processed, look at the fat content and look at any added sugars. So for example, peanut butter. All our young moms feeding the kids peanut butter, and how I love peanut butter. My husband loves peanut butter. But if you look on the labels, even, any peanut butter, the fat will come. We need healthy fat. That will come from the nuts. Palm oil shouldn't be in peanut butter. Right? They have natural sugar too. We don't need added sugars, but read those labels. That's it. We're not going to spend 2 hours in a grocery store, but you can look on a label, check the fat, check the added sugars, and read the ingredient list.
Sure.
Should be
because they're in
almonds,
order of what's the most prevalent thing. It will be the first thing on the label. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so
before you move on, I want to talk about peanut butter a little bit. There's a place called Winco. Do you like Winco?
Winco is where your uncle drove a heister for 35 years.
We got family connections to Winco.
Yeah.
I went there recently. I've never been there before, and there's a section where you can make your own butters. There's a machine in the back, and you put in nuts, and you put a certain amount of honey with it. Ooh. And it makes your own. You can make cashew butter. You can make peanut butter. You can just make it right there.
Can you make tuna fish butter?
I think that might stink up the machine for the next guy. But
that might be the last time that
from a feasibility perspective, I mean, yeah, sure.
Well, so you're talking about sugars now. Doesn't that also kind of fall underneath carbs? Like if you look carbs. If it's high in carbs, a lot of times there'll be added sugar in there, right?
Absolutely. Well, and you know what? It's the carbohydrate word. There's complex carbohydrates and there's simple carbohydrates. Your complex carbohydrates are your food, your real fiber, fruits and vegetables. Where the simple carbohydrates, those are the added sugars that we're talking about.
Sure. Yeah. And also, if you're reading something off of a frozen package or off of a box, you automatically know it is not natural because they had to process it. And I look at some of the things like, Jenny Craig, or not to pick on Jenny Craig or whatever, but any of those lean cuisine.
You're absolutely
and
right.
You look at that, it's like, low in fat, but it's got 72 carbs. You're just like, well, yeah. I mean, licorice is low in fat.
Well, I mean,
That's right.
licorice is
That's
a
right.
zero fat
right.
candy.
Skittles is low in fat. And so they basically
That's all I need to hear.
they basically trick you into continuing to eat crappy.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just like anyone, to look at someone from the outside, someone that is tall and thin does not mean the inside is all healthy.
Sure.
Or someone that might be standing next to that person that might be up 15 pounds, but a little on the healthier end.
Sure.
Just like in a package, you got to read those ingredients.
And so also something that I heard, and I don't know if that's true, but you want to stay to the outside of the grocery store. Is that true? Like,
absolutely.
Okay,
And that's
so-
where that marketing comes in.
can you talk a little bit about that?
When you first walk into a grocery store, let's talk about real food. The real food, the clean eating that I talk about, and it's not, there's a lot of trendy plant-based. That doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy. I was plant-based 11 years ago when it wasn't popular. So I'm fighting against that trendy popular, because you can get a plant-based meal, right, in a box in the freezer section, where I don't want you to do that. I want you to go into that part of the grocery store that has the actual produce, the real fruits and vegetables.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love to cook, so for me it's not a big deal, and I can't bring myself to get like frozen broccoli or frozen anything really. I mean, if it's not fresh, I would almost rather cook broccoli that was just about to spoil than to have frozen. I mean,
I'm going to change your mind a little bit, Dr. Rourke.
why is that?
Because when you have frozen broccoli that is flash frozen, that could be fresh, even fresher than the broccoli that's been sitting on the shelf.
Really?
Really.
Yeah,
How
we
could
have
that
technology
possibly-
nowadays.
How could that possibly be? And how much better
It's
could
the
it possibly
future.
be?
We live in the future.
So is-
Every day, remind yourself of that.
Well, and again, a lot of people are like, I don't have time to cook. Literally cooking up vegetables, or and I was there for a while. I was like, low carb, try to do this, and things I didn't never liked. Like I always liked potatoes. I like potato chips, that kind of stuff. I never liked sweet potatoes. And it's interesting because you think sweet potatoes must be worse for you because it has the word sweet in it, but that's not necessarily true.
That's correct.
They have, white potatoes or regular potatoes are actually there's more sugar per ounce or whatever than sweet potatoes. Is that correct?
More of a starchy
Yeah.
vegetable.
Yeah.
But I also want to bring back, fall in love with that white potato again. If you love baked potatoes, it was the sour cream, the butter,
Yeah, it's
the
the added
bacon.
stuff.
That's the stuff that gave a baked potato a bad rap.
Sure.
And when you fry potatoes, you're adding all that
Sure.
extra oil.
Well, of course.
And what I do is I would saute a little bit of mushrooms,
I
little
love
onions
mushrooms.
that has that caramelized, natural sweetener
sure.
in there. And and with a little vegetable broth, there's my liquid I put in my baked potato.
Right. And also people talk about, the food industry is very sneaky, and they will do things like, well, it's got net carbs, and they try to trick you with all that stuff. And I'm just kind of like, well, listen, if I go and get some carrots and some lettuce and some, other veggies, I know exactly what I've got. If I grab a package, I'm like, why? What is this in here for? It's a preservative. It's a whatever. I mean, none of that stuff can be good. And, at our house, what we do is I usually cook on like a Sunday or whatever, make a big pot of something, throw it in the refrigerator, and then just kind of eat on it all week. But, for people that don't like to cook, people say, oh, I can't cook. Well, if you can read, you can cook. I mean, to be honest, you may not like to
I can't
cook.
use my arms.
It's the desire that makes you good at things. But just really simple things. And once you start eating right and start feeling better, it's that self-perpetuating kind of system.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I'll never go back to the
Yeah.
way I was eating. I feel so good right now. That is one of the motivations that keeps me doing what I do. Plus teaching.
Sure.
There's a motivational inspiration right
Sure.
there every day. But it's always the informed decisions that everyone can make every day, and find your why.
Sure. Well,
and that'll help you.
Which brings me back to your husband. Tell us about
Yeah.
that whole story.
He found his why.
Yeah.
And that was an incident that really scared him. And he's Italian, Romano.
Sure.
A lot of pizza, a lot of cheese, all that
Gabagool.
good stuff, right? So that was kind of taken away a little bit. But also, as you were talking about shopping and eating and cooking, it's all about the seasoning. It's all about the taste.
Yeah.
You can, gone are the days you boil your vegetables anymore.
Sure.
We need the nutrients and the vitamins.
Sure.
And we could roast, we could steam, we could bake, we could grill. There's so many.
How do you feel about the air fryer?
It's great.
It's just an oven, really.
That's
it's just
it.
a convection oven.
Air fryer is
Absolutely.
great if you put enough oil on the thing before.
No,
I'm
right.
just kidding.
Of course.
I'm just kidding. But now,
practice.
as far as your husband, were you able to get his numbers around?
Absolutely. And he's
Okay.
doing terrific. He
That's
lost
great.
weight. He was very heavy at the time. And of course, stress, that comes into factor too.
Sure.
So that's what I teach too. Not only, my specialty is plant-based nutrition.
Okay.
And I'm not a vegan, but I do really promote more of the plant kingdom into your diet.
Yeah,
Sure.
So when that happens, your body starts to change. Your liver is responding. It's filtering how it should. We digest our fruits and vegetables in about 3 hours. So when we bring in the more acidic foods, such as our dairy and our meats, we have to produce the bile, and that takes a little longer. It takes about
Sure.
8 hours. So if we're gentle to our organs, if our livers are functioning correctly and they're doing what they're supposed to do, and there's a great balance, that's where the magic happens when we start feeling better.
Well, yeah, it's a lot of times it's combinations of foods, and the problem a lot of times is a dietary change will be so restrictive that you resent it, and so I guess my feeling is, you shouldn't have to give things up. You just need to realize you don't need as much as you used to think that you did. And if, you're a little tiny piece of pepperoni pizza with a giant salad, that can't kill you. It could, but yeah. And that's the thing is people will be like, it's like the weekend warrior thing. I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to bench press 300 pounds and squat all this. And then Monday you can't move, and from a dietary standpoint, obviously, you want to ease into it. And one of the things, I have a history of chronic headaches and a bunch of other things. And when I started changing my dietary stuff, like I don't wake up with headaches anymore. And if I do wake up with a headache, I know why it was. I either drank too much or I didn't eat right. And I think that probably has a lot to do with inflammation, which is something you also talk about in here. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Absolutely.
The anti-inflammatory diet?
Sure. The fatty acids, your omega-3s and your omega-6s, that's the problem with today's, the American people. I think we're way too acidic, way too much into the omega-6s. We need to balance.
Isn't
both.
that like
we
salmon?
Need that balance.
Isn't omega-6 and salmon, or is that 3?
That's 3.
That's
so
3.
we've got our omega-3s, which is our fruits, our vegetables, our nuts, our legumes, our salmon. And we have our omega-6s, which are more acidic, which is our dairy, our meat, our processed
like
foods.
Like red meat?
Red
kind
meats
of stuff? Okay.
and our processed foods, our donuts, our, junk food, all of that.
So you're going to group in red meat with donuts? I don't really know.
So if
like
we
a
can
donut
balance,
hamburger?
There you go.
Yeah.
When we can bring that down and when we can balance, the omega-6s, those are more of the inflammatory foods. So your omega-3s in the plant kingdom that does not cause inflammation, that's where you want more of.
Okay.
So we can just bring in more. No is not part of my vocabulary. This is a lifestyle.
Sure.
If my grandson wants to make cake for grandma's going to have a piece of cake.
Well, right.
Right.
A couple of bites here, but
yeah, the restriction part you were talking about, it doesn't have to be that hard. When we have the right education and the right information, we could bring more of those foods that really heal the body, that take away some of those inflammatory symptoms, such as weight, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and type 2 diabetes.
Sure. Yeah. And then there's always a discussion about which is better, berries or fruit. They're both pretty sweet.
Berries are fruit. So I don't know. What are you?
Well, tomatoes are fruit too.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm
right.
just saying,
But, and I don't micromanage any of those.
Yeah.
So just whatever
Yeah.
you fall in love with, whatever
I can't believe
veggies
you.
or fruits that
If
you
it's
love,
right.
bring it in.
Yeah.
And then start trying just little by little.
Sure.
Take little steps like that and then maybe try something you've never tried before.
Sure.
But start with the real things you really like.
Say no to kale. I'm just kidding. I hate kale, but whatever. If you cook it,
And you
it
don't
sounds
have
like
to
a lot of
have
work.
it.
Sounds like a lot of work.
There's a lot
But-
of other greens.
Yeah, but oh, did you have something you were going to say?
Well, no, I'm just we're at the part of the show where I have to take it over and tell you to please be quiet.
Do
because
it
we have
up.
a different segment that's about to
You're
happen.
never very shy about that.
We're very happy to have you with us here. We're so excited to learn all about healthy eating and have Debbie here with us. And we're going to get into our favorite segment, which, as everyone knows, is called Celebrity Smiles. Please remember, you can follow along with the images that we are seeing on the YouTube page. We do a video podcast of this show now, so please go ahead.
They will be right here.
Well, yeah, but I haven't said who it is.
Eventually.
No, they'll be down. They'll be like here. You see where the
Well, what was wrong with where I said?
well, yours are a little bit too high up because it covers up these words. So they have
I
to
see.
be. It goes to off the bottom of the. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah.
it helps. And
It'll
it
be
covers
there.
this.
It's
up.
not there now. So,
It's not there
okay.
now.
But it will be.
But let me
Okay.
say this name, and then it will be.
Okay.
So here's what we do, Debbie, and anyone who's never seen the show before. I say 3 celebrities. We go one at a time, and Dr. Terry and our guests will use their cellular telephone devices to look up photos of this celebrity. The 3 celebrities. Today's theme is movie directors.
Oh, this is going to be rough.
Movie
Is
directors.
Alfred Hitchcock in here?
No,
'Cause
we already
that's
did him
rough.
before. He's got a
So
we already did him before.
What we do, Debbie, is we give a
Okay.
rating from 1 to 10,
Yes.
and it's not. There's no
of
scale.
their teeth. It's just like what their dental work looks like, how their teeth. It's just arbitrary,
And it's
just-
basically an opportunity to just kind of talk about what makes a pretty smile and what's like Tom Cruise has a
and
midline
as
shift,
not
and we do.
mean as possible.
Yeah,
we're not
well,
trying to be mean.
Yeah,
We're not trying to be mean.
It depends.
We may
If I
be
don't
mean,
like
but
'em-
we're not trying to be mean.
If I
That's
don't like
because-
them, I can be as
The
mean as
first
I want.
person is one Christopher Nolan.
Christopher
Dark Knight, the Dark Knight director. He did that one movie that was backwards in time. It's hard to
Christopher
understand.
Nolan.
Tenet.
All right.
Interstellar.
See,
Do you
what
guys
we
like
do,
black holes?
Christopher Nolan teeth. What?
Christopher Nolan teeth.
Let me see. Okay.
Some people,
Images.
Debbie, sometimes there aren't any photos of their teeth because they don't ever smile. That
Yes.
happens with
And-
the guy from Succession and
Which
another guy,
Successions?
Brian Cox.
And then why don't they smile?
I don't
You
know.
know?
Because they
Some
don't
people
like
don't
their
smile.
teeth.
Right?
So we automatically give them a 0. No, I'm
No,
just
we
kidding.
we give them a not defined because that's not fair.
Christopher Nolan. Well, wait a minute. There's not a ton of pictures of him. Is that him?
I do
even?
not vet this. That is him. Yes.
Okay, so this
he
is
smiling?
the picture we're doing. So the thing we
Okay.
look at is you see how they're worn flat. So he's a grinder. He doesn't have a lot
a
of work in
grinder.
the front. He's growing a beard, so he's hiding something. No. So what we do is that from I mean, his teeth are okay, but a
There's
10.
a car alarm going off. It's bugging the hell out of me.
And here's another one that you can kind of see. Teeth
I
are flat.
see.
He grinds. He carries a lot of tension, but doesn't get a lot of dental work. He is a 6.
Would this surprise you to know that he's British?
No.
I
It would
think
not
I'm
surprise.
pretty sure he's British.
We have a British scale because they have notoriously.
See
bad
that?
teeth,
I
and that's
feel at this point that's
not-
a
is that
little
racist?
mean. We're
Is
probably
that
a little
racist?
mean.
Sorry,
I don't know
we're
how
trying
racist
to-
it is. It's just
not
kind of
racist,
mean. I don't know.
but it's just okay. He's at what did I say? 6.
I think you gave him a 6.
Yeah.
On the
But
toothing
again,
scale.
some people can improve their scores by having other
Better movies.
Good features. Yeah, I hate his movies. He's a 2.
No,
All right,
he has
I'm
good
kidding.
movies. I like Batman. That's a fun
All
one.
right, who's the other one?
All
Who's
right. The
one?
next person is one Tim Burton.
Okay, you're gonna be
That's, he's married to that one lady. I don't remember. her
Okay,
name. I'm
to
bad with
that one
names
lady?
now. I'm getting old. I'm doing the
Tim-
thing you do where I just say
Oh,
that one
my.
guy from that thing.
I haven't seen him in a long time. There you go.
He's getting there.
Yeah, that is not. I mean, sometimes it's just not a. It's just not a priority, which is totally fine too. But man, he is like a
What are you giving him?
3.
You're giving him a
Yeah, is that the number you were that you're
He
going to be
needs to
coming
come
next?
see you.
He's got-
3. Boof. Giving Tim Burton a 3 out of 10.
Yikes.
Bummer.
All right, who's next?
All right, and the final celebrity on this special director's themed edition of Celebrity Smiles is one Wes Anderson. Wes Anderson. Do you like Wes Anderson films? Debbie, do you know Wes Anderson?
Oh my
I do not.
gosh.
Tell me a film.
He did the Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
Oh.
He did
Jim,
something Hotel. What the hell is that called? Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Okay.
He did a bunch of movies.
Yeah. Bill Murray's in all of his movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moonrise Kingdom.
Wes
I could
Anderson
look him up.
teeth.
He has
you
a very
find him?
distinct style.
What
Okay.
in the heck?
Oh,
Wait, is that him?
Yeah.
Okay, well he's got what are
He
known
looks like
as
Hanson.
lapped laterals. So he could really,
Okay.
but he's got nice teeth. He could really use some Invisalign, but I'm going to give him a. See, I gave the other one
Yeah, but that was the British tooth scale.
no, that's you know what? Okay. This is a better picture. He's a
They just don't sit right.
7.
His teeth
They're-
just don't sit right. They don't. They should
and
fit
the
together
problem
like
is,
Legos.
I hate his hair. The
You know,
hair is a big
sometimes
part of the
hair-
teeth.
It's hair
he's a
theory.
He needs to come
I'm
in
giving
here
him a
too.
7 because I feel bad about what I gave the other guys. He's a 7.
All right. Well,
Yes.
with that, we're going to say thank you for listening to the Dental Works podcast. Debbie, thank you for joining us. We'll have you on the next episode
Thank
where we
you.
can talk more about how your diet affects your dental health in a cornucopia of fashions.
About how proper dietary programs can grow your teeth back.
But thank you for listening to the Dental Works podcast. If you'd like to support the show, we do not support the idea of growing back your teeth with your diet. Please give us a rating on iTunes or your podcast player of choice. If you'd like to get in contact with the show or you have questions, please send an email to dentalworkspodcast@gmail.com. We may talk about your question on the show. If you're located in the Phoenix area and need dental work, please give us a call at 480-391-0099. Thank you for joining me, Terry. Thank you for joining me, Debbie. Thanks for
Thank
being
you,
an
Debbie.
Thank
and
you.
we'll
excellent guest.
see you on the next Dental Works podcast.
Yes, we'll see you guys next time. This podcast was produced by T-Door Productions. Theme song written and recorded by Neil Hathaway. Vocals by Terry Work. Sound effects provided by freesfx.com and zapsplat.com.